Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Control Port Podcast, episode 303. I'm Benjamin Yoder here today to talk to you about video game stuff. Honestly, not that much video game stuff. We're pretty light on news stories. I've not really played much since last week. I played some multiplayer stuff. I did play Apex Legends despite complaining about myself doing so last week, so I did do that. But yeah, I don't really have a lot to say new in terms of games I've been playing this week, unfortunately. I might try to play some Summerbreeder tonight once I wrap up this podcast, so we'll see. I need to get another act of that game done, because I think my current goal is to at least finish that game before I go to Japan, which is, not too far in the future. But yeah, so I want to talk to you guys about a few different things this week. One, we have a couple of small news stories. One is just kind of like, oh, that looks neat. The other one being kind of related to an older news stories that we had more recently. And then also, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my Japan planning stuff. But before we get into that, I did want to just say that ShineCon, they accepted my panel. So if you are in Las Vegas and you're going to ShineCon, I will be there, hopefully. I say hopefully because it is actually like 2 days after I get back from Japan. So I had the opportunity to cancel it or move it or try to move it, but ultimately I decided not to do that. So I kind of was like, hey, future Ben will suffer. Current day Ben will just say it's okay. So, it's just my old panel, so I think it'll be pretty straightforward. I went ahead and did a practice run through it as well. And while it wasn't perfect, it was good enough, I think. And what I'll probably end up doing is, because it's already kind of good enough, when I come back from Japan, I have a layover somewhere for almost an entire day. It's 8 hours or something like that. So I'll probably do some practicing then and see if I can get that, nailed down then. So, but like I said, I already practiced it once, and while it wasn't good because it's been, a handful of months, it wasn't bad. So, yeah, that's going to be coming up. I think that's May 5th. That sounds about right. I think it's on a Friday. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what time yet, so maybe I shouldn't say that yet. But yeah, that is the current plan. But for Japan stuff, I did go ahead and get my hotel booked finally. I ended up deciding that I was just going to stay in Tokyo. So I'm going to, not just in Tokyo, but the Tokyo area and places that I could kind of reach around there. So ultimately, I won't be going anywhere too crazy this time around. Still trying to figure out what I'm doing on the trip. Is something I probably should have figured out a while ago, but here we are. But a couple things I am trying to figure out is a couple different things. One is what to play on the trip to Japan, because last time I went to Japan, I don't remember if I set aside a game and was I'm going to play this, but I lost a tooth literally less than 24 hours before I went to Japan, basically. So I was hopped up on drugs the entire plane flight. So I was asleep the entire time. So it wasn't anything, I didn't get to experience the length of that flight. I don't remember the flight back, to be honest with you. That is entirely out of my memory at this point, but also that was after I lost my passport and all that stuff, so I probably was just exhausted. so yeah, I don't remember that flight back very well, and what I did on it, honestly, but we'll see. The couple games I'm looking at, one I initially was looking at was Monster Hunter Stories, because I've been wanting to play that game for such a long time, but being on a plane, I don't know, I have a hard time getting into story-based games in that kind of environment. I like to be at home when I'm playing those, so I don't necessarily think I'll play that. The other thing I was looking at maybe was Codenamed Steam. I need to look to see how story intensive that game is. I know there are cutscenes in that game. I just don't know how serious it gets or anything like that. It always seemed kind of goofy, but that's that kind of Valkyria Chronicles style, strategy, third-person shooter kind of thing that Intelligent Systems made. And I don't know about today, but for a long time, you could find that thing for $5 at 30 billion different stores. So didn't particularly sell well, unfortunately. And it's been on my list of things to do, but it wasn't super high. And I would be surprised if there's anything I want to say deeply about it. Honestly, from what I know about it, it looks pretty straightforward. So I think I probably would just play through it and hopefully enjoy it. It also have Spider-Man 2 on the Nintendo DS. That's something I've been meaning to play for a long time as well. And I don't necessarily think I plan to do any kind of video on Spider-Man 2 anytime in the near future. So another game I could probably sacrifice. So we'll see. I usually try to get games that are I know that even if I would be nice to have my own footage for, I know I can get gameplay pretty easily. And the problem with Codename Steam and Spider-Man 2, I mean, I haven't looked, but they are portable games in the sense of like they're only on 3DS, right? Or DS for Spider-Man 2. So it is something that I would probably need to get my own footage or something like that in the future if I ever wanted to put them in a video for whatever reason. Again, it probably wouldn't be that hard. But you know, but like for example, Super Metroid is like one of the games I played on a plane flight, and I just was kind of like, I don't really think I'll need Super Metroid footage at any point, or at least nothing crazy extensive. I feel like I'm sure someday I will regret it, and if worst case scenario, if I'm like I really want this scene from later in the game, there's 30 billion Super Metroid playthroughs I can go out there and pull from probably if I need to. So that's what's on my mind right now. Codename Steam, I feel like, is the most likely in the running. I will probably bring Spider-Man 2 as well. The thing with Spider-Man 2 is that, like, I don't know if I'll get stuck in that game for whatever reason, because I feel like that's an era of licensed games where it is easy to get stuck because the game is not going to communicate very well what it's trying to get you to do. I could be wrong, but that's just like my feeling about those kind of games in general. So, and I'd imagine it's probably not the longest game either. So I think it's something that I could probably, get through within a reasonable time frame. So that's one thing I'm trying to figure out for the Japan trip. Second thing is, what I actually want to buy when I'm there. So I'm not like specifically doing a shopping trip like thing to Japan. I just know I will go into stores and I will go shopping and stuff like that. Being in Tokyo means that it's probably going to be kind of tough to find anything like crazy interesting, I feel like. I don't know. Like, I remember last time just feeling like Akihabara in general just felt like it was kind of picked over very well. And like, I don't mean that just in a deal sense, but it also feels like a lot of the games that I would come across just were not quite the games I was looking for, just like random garbage kind of thing. Not garbage, random stuff I haven't really heard about before. So I don't know. I felt like when I went to Osaka, it was a little bit better when I was going to book offs there and things like that. I felt like I was finding more diversity of stuff and less known things that I was aware of, kind of thing. So we'll see. But I might go outside Tokyo, but just keep that as like a central hub of where I'm at, kind of thing. So, but a handful of things I was thinking of picking up because I guess the explanation for that, if you don't know, is like I can't shop for games like blindly very well, because at some point I just glaze over if I'm looking at spines. So I need to kind of like, what was that I did a little pterodactyl noise. I don't know if that came up on the podcast, like, but I will glaze over and just like not look at anything anymore. So I need to be able to like have something that I'm consciously thinking about when I'm like shopping for stuff. And that doesn't mean I won't look at other games there, but it's just a way that when I go into a store, it's not just like, okay, look at literally everything. It is like, oh, I want to go find this thing. So, and I have that same problem at like Portland Retro Game Expo, where like if I don't go to Portland Retro Game Expo looking for some specific kind of thing, then I have a hard time, I feel like, paying attention to what I'm looking at a lot of the time. So, two are, I think, would be very easy to find, and just things that I've been meaning to pick up. So hopefully it's just something I can pick up at some random store. Gal Guardians, the Grim Guardians is the Japanese name still, I think. I've been meaning to pick up a copy of that on the Switch, so I'll probably be looking for that, as well as a copy of Gunvolt 3. So hopefully those are readily available in whatever stores are selling modern Switch games. Again, I also didn't like look at a lot of Switch games when I was in Japan, honestly, last time, because those are full price video games, so they're quite a bit more expensive, right? And then also, I think the Wii is a platform. I can't remember what that situation was like last time I went to Japan, but the Wii is a platform I feel like I've always wanted more Japanese games for. So I will probably, if I didn't dig into them really hard last time, I think I'll try to dig into them a bit more this time around. I don't have anything specifically in mind. There's a couple different games, I guess, maybe like SCAD, Hammer, or the Gundam game, or whatever it's called. There's also like I think it's like a part of the Taiko Drum Master line of games, but it's like a Japanese festival minigame collection and a couple of other things. Oh, the Composer game as well. I forget what that game's called. I'll have to find the name of it. I'm pretty sure I have it written down and things like that. So I'm interested in that as well. So I think Wii games might be kind of the main, just like, look at this pile of stuff and see if something's cool is in there kind of thing. I think last time I ended up buying a lot of PlayStation games, if I recall correctly. That was my memories, like buying a lot of PlayStation 1 games, buying every Hunex thing I saw. Dear My Son, I think that was the first game I bought on my last trip. And then I found like a special edition Dear My Son the day after, and I was like, oh no, Dear My Son special edition, and I did not buy it. I forget what was in it. But it wasn't that much more expensive either. But, I was like, I got the video game. I don't need a bunch of special edition junk in my house. so yeah. And then one other thing I've been thinking about as well is maybe the Winter Sonata games. So if you don't know, around like the holidays, I was really interested in this pachinko game that was based off a Korean drama. And there are 2 PS2 versions of that game and a Nintendo DS adventure game. So I was like, maybe I'll look for Winter Sonata, because that was something that really fascinated me. The DS game, I don't know, maybe it looks kind of neat, but like I don't know how playable it would be for me. Honestly, it looks very unplayable. I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out if I really invested my time into it, but am I going to invest my time into a Korean drama adaptation of a DS adventure game, right? At that point, I'd probably be looking at watching the Korean drama, and then, when I play the game, trying to, pull what I can out of it using my knowledge of the Korean drama itself. But the pachinko game is something that I also was like looking at and would be interested in getting as well. But I have plenty of pachinko games already, so I probably need to be very careful about what pachinko games I buy. So like if I'm going to buy any pachinko game, I think Winter Sonata is a reasonable one to get. So those are kind of my games in my mind right now as goals. I mean, PCFX stuff I'll definitely keep an eye out for, but the reality is I got a lot of PCFX games already. And I'm getting to the point where I'm edging up on most of the PCFX games I need being kind of within the price range that I'm not really interested in paying, honestly. So I think a lot of the PCFX purchasing will probably be fairly limited. I mean, not that there's like a ton of PCFX games around. I'm trying to remember. I remember seeing some. I believe I saw some in what's that store called? Super Potato? I almost called it Golden Potato. I believe I saw some in Super Potato, and I didn't spend a lot of time in Super Potato last time. So, but I have heard that like Super Potato is actually like decent if you're just not looking for any of the big games, right? If you're not looking for the Marios of the world and things like that. But the other place was, I think, a Traders is where I saw the PCFX stuff there too. So part of me also wants to look for PC98 stuff, but at the same time, like, I have not done anything with my PC98. If you don't know, it's been a long time since I've talked about it, but the PC98 situation is that the sound card I have is just not particularly great. And so a lot of games I have just kind of, have terrible sound or no sound, or use the internal PC speaker instead. And maybe it's a configuration thing, but everyone I've looked at, like showed them the card and things like that, have been like, yeah, that's not great. So there's an aftermarket card you can buy, or at least there was. I haven't looked into it recently. And I need to just like bite the bullet and buy that. So it's not just like sitting there doing absolutely nothing. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that comes along. I need to re-image mine so I can try to set up the PCFX GA stuff as well. Oh man, it's been a long time since I've thought about that. PCFX GA has not been on the top of my mind in a long time. But I do need to play some PCFX stuff here fairly soon. I forget if that was last week or not, but yeah, the PCFX podcast went up last week if you didn't check that out. So go check that out. We talked to David Shadoff. He's like a hardware hobbyist developer for the PCFX, and he's been doing some really cool stuff. So go check that podcast out if you want. And then we're also working on the next episode for the mainline podcast, or really episode 1. So I'm hoping you will see that before I go to Japan for that, but we'll see. But yeah, so that's kind of the stuff I've been looking at right now for like actual shopping stuff in Japan. And I think it's a pretty decent set of goals. I think the a little bit more defined in terms of what Wii games I'm looking for would be a big thing. Last time my biggest goal was just getting all the DS Monolith Soft games that only came out in Japan. And I have all of those games. The only Monolith Soft game I'm missing on DS right now is the Dragon Ball Z one, which those, I will be honest with you, those are getting to the price that I like don't necessarily know if I want to buy a physical copy of those. You know, I really try to keep my mindset out of the space of like, oh, but I don't have a complete Monolith Soft collection, right? I don't want that. I don't care. But if I can find a cheap copy of whatever the Japanese version of it is, I'll just, pirate the English version. That's kind of where I'm at with like regional variation stuff. And then if everything's just expensive for all versions of a game, whatever, I'm gonna do whatever I want. So I think the eShop is, you can't buy stuff from the eShop starting this week as well. So rest in peace that. There's been some good conversations, I think, recently about that. And just, how we're just kind of in a bad situation with that stuff. I think when it comes to the piracy front of just like, going out and getting that stuff, we're generally in a decent spot. However, there's the whole situation with archive.org right now. They're in a court case regarding books and things like that, and that might have an impact on games. And I believe they have lost the current case that they're working on. Now they're appealing. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, the internet will do what it does, but that doesn't mean things won't be lost if archive.org, wipes itself or something like that, right? Or really limits it down. So, and then obviously Nintendo and the ESA and all those companies are not doing what they need to do to preserve that stuff at all. So I think the Video Game History Foundation actually has been talking about having a court case that they're going to do, or like setting up an argument to basically go to court about a bunch of stuff as well. So that will be nice to hopefully have that get kicked off and hopefully win in their favor and not outside of their favor. I guess that's the risk anytime you take anything to court, right? You might set up a bad precedent, so make sure your argument's good from the start, basically. So yeah. But anyways, I forgot how I got on that whole set of talking about like regional variation stuff. But yeah, so I think Wii games are really kind of the place I might be looking. I just got to figure out like what kind of Wii games I really want to be hunting for, because I don't want to just be going through every single Wii game section of every single game store I go into. I don't know why I feel this. I don't know where this came from, but like part of me kind of wants a Famicom out of nowhere. And if you know me really well, that's probably sounds really bizarre. And I think it is really bizarre. I don't know where this desire came from, because the reality is like I have not spent a lot of time on 8 and 16-bit systems like at all. So, I don't necessarily know why I would want a Famicom, and like a Famicom doesn't have good input and stuff that too. My NES has been in disrepair for forever and things like that too. So I don't know why that desire came over me at some point. I don't think I'll get one. I don't really think I won't. Like I can't justify it is the thing. So I don't think I'll be getting something like that while I'm in Japan at the very least. So otherwise, yeah, I think it's going to be pretty open to what I end up picking up. But shopping for games is only like a part of the trip, right? I'm doing the whole thing again where like I'm probably just going to stop by Akihabara on the way back to my hotel. Rather than like dedicate an entire day at Akihabara. Because like I mentioned earlier, I start to glaze over at some point. So if I go to one place that is all the same kind of stuff, I'm not really going to enjoy my day. And that was kind of what happened when I went to Akihabara last time. Was I just was not really having a good time. Like it was fine, don't get me wrong. And I think having goals helped in hunting stuff down, but just kind of felt like you burned a day just staring at game cases, right? So I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, so I'll give you guys any more updates on that. I'm debating maybe doing some kind of content when I'm in Japan. It would not be published until I'm back. I'm almost certain. It's probably also not what you're thinking it would be, honestly. The thing that I have in mind, I'll keep shut because I don't want it to not work out, but I'm debating doing something while I'm in Japan. So, and maybe we'll get something when I get back regarding that. So yeah. But yeah, that's the current Japan thoughts. Should I have planned all this stuff earlier? Should I have got my hotel room earlier? Should I get my plane tickets earlier? Absolutely. But here we are. So yeah. Yeah, so, it's probably gonna be a shorter episode this week. I don't know what time we're at. We're at like 20 minutes, so it's we're going. But I'm gonna basically do just a couple more things here. One is we got a Jillian Corner question. So let's talk about that real quick. Jillian's Corner. Jillian wants to know, what are my thoughts on Nintendo mobile games? There's actually a second part of this question, but it got cut off, and I forgot that happened, and I was going to ask her about it, but then never did. But here we are. I think I haven't played that many Nintendo mobile games. I played Miitomo? Yeah, Miitomo? That sounds right. Tomodachi Life? No. I think it was Miitomo, the app. I played that, and I thought it was like an interesting social platform attempt kind of thing. It's probably, I feel like, the last thing that felt very distinctly like that era of Nintendo, like in a lot of ways, in terms of aesthetics and presentation and things like that. I feel like with the Switch, kind of moved away from that kind of like maybe Wii era Nintendo is maybe the best way to put that presentation of just like this. I think it's like the same thing that got like what was led into like how the Wii U system interface was designed and things like that, right? Which is, I want to say, not necessarily the right choice to make that kind of thing, but it did feel like a lot like that. But there's that thing. I went and engaged with that platform for a bit. I also played Fire Emblem Heroes briefly. I don't remember how much Fire Emblem Heroes I played. Was that it? I think I played like the demo for Mario Run or something like that as well. But yeah, I haven't played that many Nintendo mobile stuff. And like, I mean, the reality is, I feel like, Nintendo has a pretty dang good success rate with their mobile games, I will say. Whether that's for brand recognition or what is a whole other thing. But with the Switch being so successful, it feels like Nintendo just kind of did not care anymore. So some of those games have been shutting down. I mean, again, they've been successful. They've been after like 5-10 years of running. But it does kind of feel like there's not going to be anything to follow up these games. So I think they're just kind of, unless they get some like big drive to do something else, it feels like they're just kind of riding the wave of what they made and just letting that go while they, go work on other things. It feels like almost this like separate entity from Nintendo in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of times some of the developers were separate entities. I think Intelligent Systems works on the, what's it called? The Fire Emblem game. I don't know who's making the Animal Crossing mobile game, Pocket Camp. I don't know if these are all internal developers or what. Intelligent Systems obviously has a greater connection to Nintendo. I think Dragalia's Lost had connections with, is it Dena or something like that? I don't remember any of these names or who's involved with what for that thing. I haven't really been thinking about Nintendo mobile games recently, but I think it's interesting that, it feels like Nintendo kind of had their cake and then just kind of are still, eating the crumbs of what's there. But I don't necessarily think Nintendo's going to be, re-engaging with the mobile market anytime soon with the Switch doing as well as it is at the moment. It's kind of interesting because it feels like their effort really went more towards, I was about to say entertainment. That's probably not the right word, but like, the Mario Lego set, the AR, Mario Kart toys and things like that. It's like they kind of invested their efforts elsewhere, it feels like. And I part of me wonders if that's like part of the same strategy in some ways, right? Like, a big part of like the mobile games is like they wanted to introduce fans or people to Nintendo through mobile games and bring them back to Nintendo platforms. And I'm curious like if that actually played out. I feel like given those mobile games were launching, did any of this launch during the Wii U era? I don't remember, but I feel like maybe what happened is that the Nintendo fans who had phones just started playing those games, right? And maybe they didn't get a lot of like, return back to their platforms. But I'm sure like, some people who just checked out Fire Emblem Heroes probably went and started playing Fire Emblem on Switch too as well, right? So, but I think when you start doing things like toys and Nintendo parks and Nintendo lands and things like that, right? I think that's going to be a lot more of a long-term payoff of just introducing kids to Nintendo, even if they don't have like a console yet, right? And being like, here's the Mario thing because daddy likes Mario. So daddy's going to take you to Nintendo Land because daddy likes Nintendo Land and you should like Nintendo Land too. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, like how I feel like those priorities have shifted. And I also feel like we as a gaming community do not talk about Nintendo's efforts in other spaces very much anymore. Or at least not as a part of like the Nintendo's plan. I don't think Nintendo verbalizes that stuff to the public nearly as much as they used to anymore either. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. But I the big thing for me at this point is I think I kind of want to play Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. I just this weekend worked on a Animal Crossing video. I mean, I kind of recorded all this stuff a long time ago, and this all came out of me playing City Folk around, was it January? When I was playing City Folk, I feel like it was like late January, early February. Whenever I was summoned to jury duty, and then I was like, oh God, I need to bring something with me, but something I don't have to dedicate myself to, and I brought Animal Crossing, and then didn't get jury duty, thankfully. And then so I was like, well, maybe I'll just play some more Animal Crossing. So, but I made a video about that, and I think playing Pocket Camp might be like a good experience for me at some point. But, you know, I don't know. I could today, but I think Wild World, the Animal Crossing I just played, I think was enough for me for now, at the very least. So thank you again, Jillian, for your question. I appreciate it. We got 2 news stories this week. Two fairly small ones, I feel like, at least. I don't know. Maybe I'll have something to say about these, but I feel like for the most part, it'd be pretty small. Maybe the most important one here is that Project Egg, we just talked about this service, I think a week or 2 ago, because Project Egg opened up their platform to independent developers who are making modern, games for old platforms, like, you know, the X68000 and PC98 and PC88 and things like that. Actually, I don't know if those, I don't know Project Egg's lineup, so don't take those platforms as like a commitment that they are there. But those kind of like old PC games and things like that, they were offering like the ability for people to upload their new homebrew for that. But now they're trying to bring Project Egg to Switch, which is really cool. They didn't really say how extensive this would be as far as I could tell. I just had a 4Gamer article here, so, you know, machine translation stuff and things like that. They didn't seem like they had a lot of details, but yeah, it looks like MSX, PC9801, PC8801, and X68000 is something that might be soon available on the Nintendo Switch. Take a strong guess. If you want, you can switch your region to that region and play it that way, but I don't know if they'll do like any kind of Western application kind of thing. I think there is a subscription fee, or maybe you have to pay for individual titles. I don't remember how Project Egg is handled. I've never actually used it, but it looks like I was about to say, it looked like there's a number of titles that were on Project Egg, but I think it's the company saying they've done a bunch of ports because like they mentioned the Wii Virtual Console on here, and I'm pretty sure that is not anything to do with Project Egg at this point. So yeah, that's really cool. And I mean, that's gonna, you know, obviously Project Egg is already fairly accessible being on a PC, but being on a console, that just, you know, increases the number of people who have the you know, option or the reach of that, right? So I think that's really cool to see that come up. So we'll see what happens with that. And if yeah, it'd be nice to see some kind of like US presence for Project Egg. I'm not aware of any kind of English service for them. Not that you really need it, because all the games are going to be in Japanese anyways. I was actually looking at some PC88 games recently. I'm trying to remember why. What was I looking at? I was doing some research for PCFX stuff, unsurprisingly, and was kind of doing some research into PC games from the 80s and 90s a little bit. I've never really asked the question of why the US and the Japanese market of PCs were separated. So that was something I was looking into. And while I was doing that, I kind of learned more about like why the types of games on the PC98 ended up being what they are. So I'm not going to tell you the answer to that today. You got to tune back into my PCFX podcast when that comes out. I think we'll talk about it there probably. You know, we're just outlining it at the moment. So the last news story here is something that I haven't really done in a long time, which is just like talk about a random anime game. There is a game, I think we talked about it before, or an anime that we've talked about before called 7 Deadly Sins. I don't know anything about it. I remember there being like a big girl and a blonde boy. When I say big girl, I mean like a giant girl. I don't remember anything about it except for they had a arena fighter that I thought looked kind of neat at the time, but I was like, but it looks like a Bandai Namco arena fighter, so probably not going to check it out. But this thing, I think it's called 7 Deadly Sins Origins, which I don't know if that's the name of the anime or like anime season, if that's just the name of the game. But there is this new, like, very Genshin Impact looking gameplay they showed off at GDC, and it looks pretty dang good. Like, I think, like, if you're going to make a game, like, framed after another, Genshin Impact is probably a decent one to look at. and, not just throw it in the Bandai Namco Arena Fighter blender kind of thing. I don't think Bandai Namco has anything to do with this, though. I forget the companies who are involved. But yeah, they showed off some really early gameplay at GDC, and it just looked really pretty nice. It looked pretty good. I don't think I'll ever play it, but I just was kind of surprised by it. So yeah, I don't know if they said anything about when it's coming out. And I feel like it's rare for GDC to you get announcements at GDC. So yeah. Anyways, that's it for this week. Thanks for coming. OneControlPort.com is the website. So yeah, like I said, the PCFX podcast with David Shadoff came out last week, so look forward to that. In terms of videos, like the premiere videos, I did start kind of trying to figure out what kind of videos I want to look at next. I think a big question is going to be, what do those scripts look like? I think that's going to be a big decider in how I move forward and when things will be there. There may be a chance that I throw out some scripts just because I'm trying to figure out how to focus them. I have been doing a lot of thinking about podcasts. If you don't know, a long time ago, last year, I had mentioned, maybe I mentioned it this year. I don't remember when I talked about it last, but I wanted to kind of revamp the multi-tap podcast. So I'm kind of looking into what that means, and I'll probably record a pilot episode sometime in the near future, and try to figure that out. And so that should be coming up. A lot of planning at the moment, unfortunately, but there is a Damn Stompland review going up on the OCP Plus channel. So if you want to check out the review of Damn Stompland, an arena fighter where you stomp on each other's shadows, that is up there. That has been something you can listen to early on the Ko-fi page if you provide some moolah. No, if you support me for $1 or whatever, then you can watch that early. It's already there. But my plan is that once the Damn Stompland review goes up, I'll go ahead and try to schedule up a post here shortly for another preview. I'm kind of on the fence of if I want to do so I have a Final Fantasy Chocobo Tales video that's done, and then I also have the Animal Crossing video that's done. And the Animal Crossing one is kind of interesting because it's not really a normal video that I do for the One Short Post channel in a lot of ways. It kind of came out of a lot of different things and it ended up being what it is. And I don't know if I'll do another video like it. It maybe kind of exists in the weird Babylon's Fall thing where it's kind of this weird in between where I was talking about one game, but also was talking about some larger topics. But it's went on the OCP Plus channel because it was a unscripted video. So that might be going up, but I will let you know what I think about that. Let me know, I guess. Maybe I'll open a poll if you're part of the Ko-fi. If you want to be a part of which video gets early access, you want to hear about Chocobo Tales thoughts, or if you want to hear about my Animal Crossing thing, and it's kind of related to Blue Ocean strategy stuff with Nintendo. So I don't know. Maybe I'll do that, and we'll see what happens. And if nobody votes, I'll pick whatever I want. so yeah. Anyways, but yeah, thank you guys so much for coming and listening, and I hope you guys have a great week. Bye.